Hi there, crafters, and welcome. It's Kevin from Stamping Just for Fun. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Consultant located on the east coast of Canada in Nova Scotia, and this is my May Gentlemen Crafters Design Team blog hop. And today I want to show you in our new annual catalog, which has just launched at the beginning of May, a wonderful product suite that I fell in love with the moment I saw it. It's called the Simply Elegant Suite. It's a very cost-effective suite. It's only $79.75 here in Canada, and it includes a beautiful stamp set, really nice foiled designer series paper. This is a specialty designer series paper, so it's a little more expensive than our normal packs of paper at $20, and it has this really unique tag punch with it. You can find all of this information on pages 68 and 69 of the annual catalog. If you're a customer or a crafter, I should say, in Canada and you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Let me know commenting on this video, either on my blog or on my YouTube channel, and I can certainly get you connected with a catalog. You can also visit my website, StampingJustForFun.CA, and on the right side I have a virtual version of the catalog PDF form that you can look at there. So let me bring in some of the real product so that you can have a look at it. This gorgeous stamp set has some really nice sentiments, and what I like about these is it's mixed typefaces. So you have a handwriting typeface, but you also have a block typeface. So there's birthday, anniversary, you're amazing, life is changing, thank you for you, lots of different variation of sentiment. We've got a couple of nice focal point images that you can use, and this really neat strip that you can put down the side or across the bottom of a card, and just a little flourish to go in the corner. If I can figure out how to use my silicone mat or another stamp rubber to reverse this image, you can make a butterfly out of it. I can see that happening relatively easily. You just have to be able to flip it over the other direction. Then there's this really cool punch, and the neat thing about this punch is if you work from the back side of it with your 1 3/4 inch wide piece of paper, you can insert it in this way through your punch, and I'm going to show you how to do that, to cut this end of it, and you can have a piece of paper as long as you want, 10 inches even, 12 inches, and you can put the other end in to do the bottom instead of putting your paper in the side like we normally would. So you can make a tag as long as you need with this punch. So I'm going to show you how we do that in the project we're going to do. And lastly, I've got to bring in the paper to show you, because the catalog picture just doesn't do this paper justice. The colors contained in this paper, this is Simply Elegant Specialty Designer Series paper. There's basic black, of course. There's basic gray in it, very vanilla, and whisper white. We don't normally have papers that have very vanilla and whisper white in the background, so you have to be careful when you're choosing your base matte layer colors. But the foils in this, there's gold, copper, and silver foils in this paper. And this particular sheet has all three foils on it. Okay. This one is gold on white, basic white. This one has all three. It's got the silver, the gold, and the copper on the white, and they're just gorgeous. I mean, this video is really not doing this justice, but they're just beautiful patterns. This is the gold on the basic gray, so it's a little more muted. This is gold, and there's some black ink on very vanilla. And then this one is silver and gold on the basic gray. And then on the other side of all of these sheets, there's no foil, but there's some really interesting patterns. So this is very vanilla, little crosses made out of dots on the basic gray. Well, yeah, I would say it's the basic gray. It's not Not quite as black as, yeah, definitely basic gray. No, now that I've said that, there's gray, there's black. That's black. Okay, and this one is, there's a very vanilla base behind it and has patterns printed in the basic gray. Reminds me of wallpaper that was at my grandmother's cottage. This one's very vanilla, and it just has lines and dots in black and basic gray. So you can see there's, you know, really neat patterns and things here. This is kind of a diagonal pattern in the gray. Love this one, and this mimics the flourish that's in the corner of the stamp set. So those two go really well together. This is very vanilla with basic gray. And I love this one, a leaf pattern. And I could see, this is a very vanilla base, I could see taking blender brushes and adding a little bit of green even to this and coloring it if you wanted to. And you could certainly do that with any of these ones that are on the very vanilla or the white, adding blending brushes to give a little bit of color, or sponge daubers, or if you have the brayer, or even, you know, you could use your blends and your alcohol blends and color in. Would take really well to any of those papers. So really gorgeous paper. That's enough of the show and tell. The card we're going to do is based on this card that was introduced to me in a mystery stamping from a friend and fellow crafter, Kathy Miller. So thank you, Kathy, for showing me this this card design. I had not seen this before. This is a double tab, double flap gatefold card, and so it has one small flap on this side and a larger flap on this side, and you can really have fun layering these with different designer papers and different stamped elements. So we're going to use this concept to make a card with this beautiful suite. So I have a bunch of pieces prepared here. I will have all the measurements written down in my blog post. I've got my cheater notes here so I can keep track of it all, because there's quite a few pieces. So we have a card base in basic black. I suppose you could also do this in the basic gray if you wanted not quite so stark color, but this card doesn't open up like a regular card, so it's only a quarter of a sheet. So 5.5 by 4, I should say 4.25 by 5.5. So it's a quarter of a sheet of cardstock for the base. Then we've got a standard mat in very vanilla, and this is 4 by 5.25. So, you know, when we put our standard mats on, we have our 1/8 inch margin around the outside. Then I've got, get my flaps here. So there's a large flap and there's a small flap. The large one measures 4 inches by 3.5 inches, and I've scored that at 1/2 inch on the outside edge. The smaller flap is 3.5 inches by 3 inches, and again I've scored that along the outside edge at 1/2 inch, so I've got a 1/2 inch flap. What I'm left with is my 3 inch by 3 inch square, and this one measures 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. Okay, then each of those gets a mat layer. So I chose that wonderful leafy pattern for my large flap, so that's going to have a mat layer there, and that measures 3.25 inches by 3.25, so it's just 1/4 inch smaller than the 3.5. And where this one was 3, we need a 2 3/4. And I'm just going to do a plain mat with that one out of the vanilla. So that's 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. So there's my flaps. Then I've got just a scrap. We're going to stamp on this. We're going to stamp the flower on this, and we're going to fussy cut it out and make that a 3D element on our layer here. I got a little scrap of the paper that has the foil flowers on it. That is 1 3/4 inch wide, and just whatever I happen to have. I think it's about 3 inches. Yeah, it's just a little under 3 inches. This we're going to run through the tag punch, so I wasn't really concerned about the length of it. That's going to become focal element with the tag on the front here. Okay, and then there's 2 little strips of designer paper that are going to go on the top and the bottom, and they are 4 inches wide and 5/8 of an inch tall. Okay, mostly just scraps left over from when I was cutting other things up. Always keep your scraps because you never know when you're going to be able to use little pieces like that. Okay, so let's start. We're going to do some stamping first. So I want basically all my vanilla layers off my card. So I'll put all of this off to the side. And I am going to bring in my Stamparatus just because I found it easier to mount these on the Stamparatus and do them where they're so detailed. I kept finding as I was inking on my block and going to my paper, I'd miss a little bit of the detail. And with the Stamparatus, of course, you can restamp and restamp and restamp if you have to. Okay, so I've just got a piece of white test paper in here just to test how juicy my ink pad is. Just going to slide that under to give me a little bit of a platform here. And I'm just going to use basic gray. And I'm going to work on the inside layer of my card. And so what I've got mounted is the corner flourish and my sentiment. So that's going to go on the inside of my card. I just want to ink those up. We'll see how. Yeah, that worked really good. Okay, wasn't sure if it was going to. So I'm just going to put my inside piece in. And I didn't do it right in the corner because I find sometimes if you're doing a big stamp and it's right in the corner, you can't push down as far as you want because of the hinge on the Stamparatus, and then you end up smudging. So I just moved it out a little bit so that it wasn't trapped right in the corner. And that's why I did a test piece first, just to make sure. I'm not pressing overly hard because I don't want to smudge it, just enough to make sure that it's there. Yep, beautiful. Okay, look, got it all in one go. So there's the inside part done. And I'm just going to grab my chamois and clean all the ink off of this before I go any further. I have it on my hands. Okay. And then I want to do my little flower. Now, my flower is going on my scrap piece on the inside. Right, so just want to see where I'm going to fussy cut that out so it doesn't really matter. Just want it roughly where I had it. Yep, okay, perfect. And I'm going to do that in the basic gray as well. Maybe just a little bit more. There's some solid areas that I want to get really solid. That little flower is just fighting me. Let's just do you a little bit more here. There we go. Okay. Clean that all off. There. And I'm still all set up if I decide I want to make more of these cards. I've got everything mounted, ready to go. All right. Now, this is the boring part of the video where you get to watch me fussy cut for a minute. Don't really like fussy cutting, but I like what you can do with fussy cutting. Would have been really interesting to see if they had made a die set to go with this set instead of a punch. What other fascinating shapes and things they would have had in the dies, because there's only this image and the little corner flourish image, so I'm sure they would have included other really interesting things. But I like bundles of punches because they're very cost effective. Like I said, I think this one was only $77, $78 for the whole entire suite. So the bundle itself, which would be the stamp set and the punch, would have a 10% discount on it because it's a bundle. And I'll grab my catalog here again in a second, but I think it's only $49.50, I think is what it is, if memory serves correctly, for the bundle with the stamp set and the punch, and that's a very good price. We'll check that out here in a second. Okay. There we go. We're almost there. There we are. Okay. So we've got that. Let's bring back in our other pieces here. I want to go and I want to do the punch on this piece. So this is going to go on the edge of the matte piece here. So I want this flat on this edge, but I have no idea where I want to trim it yet. So I'm going to work on this end of it, and I'm going to do just the flourished end of the punch. Okay, you can try getting your paper in this way. I find sometimes it's a little difficult to go in this direction, and you have to cut your paper just narrower than the punch. So this I did cut on my trimmer at 1 3/4, but I can see I need to be just a hair under. So I am just going to go just to the right of my 1 3/4 line, just like not even a 1/2 of a 16th, but almost. So a 32nd of an inch. I'm going to take a little bit off and see. That's better, okay? But I'm not going to try to fish it in that way. What I'm going to do is come in from this end and then lift it up, okay? So now I've got it outside of my punch. It's not going to punch the bottom, but it is going to punch the top. And so I'm just going to find my edge. There's my edge. And I want to try to keep it relatively straight. Okay. And now I've got that beautiful flourish on the end. Now I can look and see where I think I want to line it up. Do I want it to touch at the end? Probably not. So I probably want to take, just going to use my grid paper here, about 1/4 of an inch off of it. So I'll bring my little trimmer back in. And I'll just take off what looks to be about 1/4 of an inch off the end. There we go. Yeah, that's going to work just perfect. Okay, now it's assembly time. So we've got all these different pieces. We've got our flaps. We've got our layers. So I'm going to start with my flaps. And so I've got, can't really see on black paper, but I've got it scored at a 1/2 an inch from the end there. So I want to glue my matte layer to the other end. I can't believe I'm gluing the beautiful foil side down, but oh well. I'll make other cards with the other foil side up. I really like this leafy pattern. Okay, so that's going to go on there. Iron it down nice and smooth. Bone folder, that's that flap. Okay, and this one I've got the score line over on this side. This is going to get my vanilla layer. That's going to go on there like that. And then my foil piece. Put a little dab of glue up in these curly parts. that's going to go right to my left edge there, like that. Very careful here not to squeeze the glue out too bad. There we are. Okay, then I'm going to fold over and crease those flaps. Okay, and I'm going to get my vanilla layer. I'm going to use my grid paper to try to help me line this up. What I want to do, I want to put just a little bit of glue on my flap. Okay, and I'm going to line this up on one of my thicker lines here. So I'm it's about 5/8 above a grid line, 5/8 below a grid line. This is my center grid line. And I'm going to slide this in behind and center my flap. I mean, you can do this roughly visually too, but I do kind of want to get it centered. And what I'm really making sure of is that it folds over flat. I don't want it to stick out past the edge, but I don't want it to be so tight as it's not going to fold over. And then I'm just going to crease that a few times with my bone folder on the edge here. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm really going to burnish it down good so that the glue sticks. Okay, now the one for the other side isn't so important to line up to the grid or anything like that, as much as visually I want it centered on my other one. So I can do that with my eyes. I can tell when I'm centered, and I have the same amount sticking out on either side. And using glue is nice because I have a little bit of time to wiggle it around if I get it wrong. There. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Just burnish that down really good to make sure that it is staying. You can use tear and tape for this. That would certainly make it stick harder and faster, but it's not absolutely necessary. I'm just going to burnish that down. Okay. And then I'm going to put my matte layer on my card base, just like we normally would. Okay. Bring in my card base. Do I want this? You know what? I'm going to do it opposite. No, I can't. There's a right side up on the inside of this card. Which way is right side up? There we go. Make sure that I've got my... Of course, do you know what? It doesn't matter. I could have just turned the card around because this card doesn't open up. Get so used to the way we do things, making sure that your card opens up on the right side and gluing things on the right way. It wouldn't have mattered. I could have just flipped it around. But anyway, okay. And then I'm just going to open this up and burnish down the glue. Okay, so there we've got our flaps. Okay, now I'm going to take my 2 little strips of designer paper that were 4 inches by 5/8 of an inch. Those are going to go down here like this. And they were cut at 5/8 because that gives us an 1/8 here and an 1/8 there. There's 8s all around for everybody. Just gives us a nice mimicking of the borders and margins all the way around on everything. Okay. Starting to get glue all over my fingers and get quite sticky here. There. Okay. Last but not least, our little flower element. I'll just smooth him out here a little with the bone folder. Kind of got wrinkled from all the fussy cutting. Okay, and we're going to put some little dimensionals on the back of him. Pop him up with. And one there. All right. And I'm not sure where, how. I think I'll just sort of center him right there like that. There we go. Showcasing both some of the plain paper and the foil paper. And it kind of alternates. That's why I chose it that way. So I've got foil, plain, and then the vanilla is what's in the background of this one. And the black card base is the black that was in the background of this paper. So you open up the flap, open up the other flap, and then there's your inside. Now there's not a lot of room on the inside of this card to write, but you could certainly put another very vanilla scrap here if you wanted, or you could flip it over and you could put a piece on the back to write your note on. Or if you really wanted to, you could make this a full card base and have it open up this way too, but I think that's a little complicated, might confuse people. And the last thing that I would add to this would be maybe some bling, and I don't have any of the matte black dots left, but you could always color some pearls with a black Sharpie marker, or the black blend, or a little bit of black ribbon. Packed all that kind of stuff away with my Halloween product and whatnot, so I don't have it out at the moment, but I think I'll probably put a couple of black spots on here. So there you are. I hope you enjoyed that. The one last thing I did say I was going to give you the information on was the bundle price, which was $49.50. I wasn't too far off. So you can get the stamp set and the punch as a bundle for $49.50. You can add the paper on for $20, or you can get the whole entire thing all together for the same price for $79.75. Yeah, it's really nice. Actually, I see that actually includes the trim as well. So there's this nice gold and silver trim pack that comes with it, and that would have added to my card. I could have put a bow on with that, but I didn't get that. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this, and please do take a moment to go to the bottom of my blog post and find the links to all the other gentlemen who are hopping in the hop with me this month, and make sure you click on their projects to go and see what they are doing. And until next time, for the Gentleman Crafters blog hop, have a great day. Happy crafting.